The waggle dance. This is an alternative theory. Beekeepers are aware of the waggle dance, but the reasons assumed for it may not be correct. It is accepted that bees dance. We have all seen it. There must be a reason, and it cannot be trivial. But if not to give direction and distance to forage, then what could it be for? The waggle dance may be just to attract foragers in a noisy and dark hive by vibrating comb, rather like a town crier's bell. The dance may just be the precursor to giving directions to a group of dance followers by antennae touching or some other method. Suspicions about the veracity of the waggle dance as a method of communicating directly the location of forage is based on a number of observations. 1. Each dance can vary in direction over the dance duration. 2. When the frame is held horizontal, the bees carry on doing the dance. 3. The triangular dance is sometimes seen. What is this for? 4. Direction to forage is not needed if a line is followed and then found by olfaction. Why worry about distance? 5. What is the scale of dance compared to the distance to forage? Is it based on time spent travelling or distance covered? Bees have neither watches nor tape measure, but it is suggested that 1 millimetre of waggle is equivalent to 1 kilometre of travel to the source, a ratio of 1 to a million. This is unlikely. 6. How is the information conveyed in a dark hive if the mechanism is visual? If antennae touching does convey information, it must be described as a language in which abstract concepts required for giving directions is possible, as in humans. Human language also uses a two-way process of thought, speech, hearing, thought, and requires a range of sounds between speech and hearing to convey meaning. The English language has 46 phonetic sounds and is sufficient for the language of Shakespeare. Bees could probably need less, but they do not have ears. We know that bee antennae have hairs on them as humans have in their ears for hearing. In humans, these act as transducers, which convert one form of energy to another, such as mechanical to electrical and vice versa. Mammals receive air vibration impulses to their ears, which are transmitted to the brain and interpreted as sound. The possible bee antennae anatomy for conveying meaning includes paw plates, hairs, and a segmented exoskeleton which may be capable of conveying abstract meaning by touch. I am neither alone nor part of a majority among beekeepers in suggesting that the conventional reason for the waggle dance is wrong. An article by Caroline Williams in New Scientist on the 19th of September 2009 also raised doubts. I have a suspicion that Carl von Frisch's theory is a post-decision rationalization that has become accepted wisdom. Bee researchers certainly spend a lot of valuable time on it. It is a conventional belief among beekeepers that the waggle dance is a run, but in reality it is a stand. This point is made in the book The Buzz About Bees by Jürgen Torz. On page 95, Mr. Torz states that dancers only move 1 or 2 steps to get a better grip on the comb. It is an optical illusion that it is a run. A dancing bee has an audience of dance followers or foragers whose antennae are held rigidly at attention facing the dancer. Antennae touching occurs on the return runs. On page 109 and 108 of Mr. Torz's book, he raises his own surprising anomalies on the logical basis of the waggle dance. On page 99, he makes the point that it is not necessary for a bee to know the distance to a forage source, only the direction. If direction is known, the bee can fly until they find it by olfaction. Torz says that distance to forage is a luxury. Darwinian selection characteristics precludes this. On page 106 of his book, Mr. Torts further states that while the message about the location of the food source is most likely received over the antennae, an important link in the procedure is missing. How do interested bees find dancers on the busy, crowded and dark floor, he asks. That link may indeed commence by the waggle dancer broadcasting to dance followers like a town crier by vibrating the comb. The more efficient the vibration is, the greater the audience that seems to turn up. The most efficient dances are on open cells where a proper grip can be obtained and tends to follow the honeycomb structure. On page 101 of his book, Mr. Torts refers to an experiment where dancing bees have flown down a deception wind tunnel, which deceives the bee into thinking that she has flown much further than she has. Torts concludes that this explained and settled the decades-long controversy about the waggle dance, in which it was disputed whether or not the recruited bees followed the information coded in the waggle-tail dance. The wind tunnel deceived the dancing bees, who made errors in visiting feeding sites just 6 meters away from the hive, but in their dance signalled a distance 30 times longer. Searching dance follower recruits were not found foraging around the dancing bee really from where the dancing bee really came from, but in an area much further away where there was nothing of interest. This was used as evidence that directions and distance given by the dancer must have been used. This may not be the correct conclusion. It may just mean that the wrong information has indeed been transferred, but not necessarily by the waggle dance. Harvey J. Gold said on the subject of mathematical modelling of biological systems, the result of mathematical development should be continuously checked against one's own intuition about what constitutes reasonable biological behaviour. When such a check reveals disagreement, then the following possibilities must be considered. A mistake has been made in the formal mathematical development. B, the starting assumptions are incorrect and/or constitute a too drastic oversimplification. C, one's own intuition about the biological field is inadequately developed. D, a penetrating new principle has been discovered. Does the waggle-tail dance constitute reasonable biological behaviour to direct dance followers to forage? It is inaccurate, sequentially variable, unseen in the dark and done on a horizontal surface, negating its association with gravity. It is less than totally believable. The organisation seen in a colony of bees cannot reasonably be expected to be carried out by the waggle dance, pheromones, olfaction and instinct alone. A bee language capable of carrying abstract thoughts would explain much about unexplained bee behaviour. Honeybees have had 30 million years to develop language, which would improve efficiency and therefore survivability. If the laws of the physical universe and Darwinian rules do not exclude the possibility, it is highly likely, if not a certainty, that it has evolved. In support of the theory of bee language, there appears to be a collective memory or knowledge handed down in a bee colony, such as bees building queen cells. They have never seen one or made one before, but they do so with ease. To say that this is just instinct is to use the word as a dumping ground for the not understood. Bees have good memory and knowledge may be passed down. This again suggests language. An electrostatic charge is present in the pore plates on the bee's antennae. This comes from a paper by Eric H. Erickson Jr. published in 1982. He speculates that it is present to attract molecules to improve olfaction. It may do this, but its presence may also bring other uses such as language transmission. Googling dynamic range compression in the honeybee auditory system towards waggle dance sounds also reveals a paper that infers the possibility of a language capable of conveying and receiving abstract concepts, yet then struggles to fit its findings to the waggle dance as a language. It seems that further analysis of the tactile behaviour of bee antennae on returning from foraging and dancing needs to be video analysed frame by frame in order to identify any patterns that suggest a language. Is the antennae touching after the waggle tail dance consistent with each bee, yet different from the touching that occurs at other times and other circumstances? To determine whether a language based on antennae touching does indeed exist in honeybees, evidence may lay in the antennae touching ritual being the same between different bees when they are conveying the same information to each other. If it is seen that a dancing bee conducts the same antennae touching ritual with more than one dance follower, it should be assumed that the same ritual carries the same information regarding direction and distance to forage. A similar assumption can be made regarding the antennae attaching that occurs between a guard bee and a bee seeking entry to the hive. Jürgen Torz in his book draws similarities with bees and mammal behaviour, giving them nominal mammal status. If a language is part of the bee repertoire, he could have been bolder, less mammal, more Homo sapiens.